Welcome, everyone. Very happy to be here for another installment of the Smith.ai Master Series with attorney Regina Edwards. I'm Maddy Martin. I'm the head of growth and education for Smith.ai. We're a 24/7 virtual receptionist, web chat, text answering, and Facebook answering service. So we help a number of small businesses, mostly 80% solo small firm attorneys. So Regina has been working with us for a really long time. She and I have gotten to know each other, and she has put on a number of webinars now about intake best practices, how to manage your team and your answering all the way through to the sales conversation. And we have found that, Regina has had so much experience and tried and tested and tweaked a lot of different sort of conversational flows that we find it's really helpful to bring her in for conversations like this to talk about how you can best use a receptionist service, an answering service, setting up Smith.ai and your law firm for success in working together. So what we're going to cover today, and then I'll introduce Regina and let her speak about herself. We're going to cover basically an inside peek into Regina's account. We have her exact directions here. We want to show you how to set up Smith.ai as an answering service that is really successful for your law practice or your business. We'll talk about how you can best prepare for using an answering service, how you thoughtfully hand over call handling, lead screening, light intake before maybe your in-house team takes over, and then what little known features you should use or demand of any receptionist service, and a whole lot more. So without going forward anymore, Regina, welcome, and can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Regina Edwards. I am a family law attorney. I've been practicing for 20 years. I've used Smith.ai for, I want to say 4 years, which I just realized is the longest relationship I've ever had. So before Smith, I used everybody. Any answering service you've heard of, I've used. So my issue was trying to combine the quality with not having to spend a whole bunch of money, and that was a really tough thing to find. So anyway, I've been happy with Smith for years, so I'm just here to kind of give you some tips on how I set up my account and how you can set up your account to make it best work for your firm.
Awesome. So let's talk about, that history for a second. Regina, walk us through what your experiences were like with other answering services and why you even got to the point of testing different services to find Smith.ai. We were relatively new when you discovered us. We've been around for almost 6 years now. You've been with us for 4. We weren't big on the radar back then, and you must have been hunting to find us. How did that journey take you here?
Well, it actually started years before that, because I went through receptionists, like water. I just could not find someone that would fill the position and do the things that I needed them to do. So then that's when I just kind of stumbled upon using an answering service, altogether. So at the time, I want to say I started 7 years ago using an answering service. There really weren't that many, and the big player was Ruby. So that's who I signed up with. So quality was there. The cost was a problem. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about the class action lawsuit where, they basically admitted they were overbilling their customers, and now they've settled. So go ahead and get your 13-cent check if you want in on that. But, it definitely was a process. So I went through probably about 10 different companies. Not that many charge per call, most charge per minute. So, I'm a flat fee attorney too. So I'm definitely adverse to anything being done for time, because same thing with billing hourly. There's no incentive to be efficient. And definitely the last straw for me was when I got billed 18 minutes for them declining a murder case when I'm a divorce lawyer. It does not take you 18 minutes to tell someone she cannot handle your murder case. This is the last attorney in the world that you would want to handle your murder case. You would go straight to the electric chair. So that was a problem. So I definitely tested out everybody. I used Smith's free trial in the beginning, and obviously stuck with it. I've definitely added different features, throughout. They've, constantly added their services. The ones that I use that I like the most are the ones where they can text ahead of time or SMS or Slack, whatever messaging system you have, they can integrate with. So when I'm available, which is almost never, I put myself as available, and a call comes in, they will send me a message on, I think I'm using Slack right now, saying, hey, so-and-so is on the phone, do you want to take the call? And I can either say yes or no. If I say no, they don't know that they've been declined, just, I'm not available. If yes, they can patch it through to me. And that's helpful for, situations where I don't want to call ahead of time to patch it through. I just want to text or a quick message, or I can easily decline. So I use that feature a lot. There is a portal where you can go and look at all of your calls. Your staff can have access to that portal, so they can, know the calls that are coming in as they're coming in. I think Todd is surprised by that feature. Yeah, Todd, it's actually really cool. They also, I don't know, what is it called?
So it's a dashboard, and oops, sorry, I just chatted that to the wrong.
I don't know if he's talking about the portal. I think he's talking about the fact where they can Slack you ahead of time or message you ahead of time to let you know who's on the phone.
We'll cover both of those. Sure, okay. Absolutely. So basically, there's a Smith.ai dashboard, and if you go to Smith.ai, you as a existing client will be able to log in, and you can see all the calls, all the chats. I don't have a dummy account up, and I'm not going to show all of Regina's calls. That would be private information. But basically, it shows you, I'll post the blog post link. Let me just pull that up really quickly, and I can show you a demo. So basically, I'm just doing this on the fly. Sorry, hang on, everyone. Let me share my screen, and I will show you exactly what Regina is talking about. Okay, so basically there is a call dashboard, which has your receptionist calls, new leads, existing clients or customers, and your entire call log. And you can click on each call and you can see the call summary. If you have chat and or calls, you can also see chats, and you will be able to see the entire chat transcript, what page the chat happened on. If you don't know what chat is, that's the little guy hanging out here on the right side of my screen. And you'll be able to review the entire transcript. Was it relevant? Was it not? And instead of maybe you have a CRM integration, you can see all the calls and chats that are coming through. Now, what Regina is talking about is actually the Slack integration, which is call summaries and even call transfer requests coming into a Slack channel. So I will share those resources in the show notes and the email summary that I send out after this. Basically, if you want to not have calls come in and interrupt you, but instead have them triaged through a Slack channel that is shared or that is just for you because you prefer Slack or Microsoft Teams, you can actually have a 30-second window for the calls to ping you on Slack with a brief message that basically says, so-and-so is on the line. They described their reason for calling, and do you want to accept the transfer, yes or no? And that will actually be, then it'll be a call that's connected to you if you accept. So there's no phone that's ringing. It also buys you exactly 30 seconds. If you're in a meeting, you can step out, you can find some quiet place to take the call, and you have that little breather gap, that little forewarning to say, okay, actually, I do want to take this call, or I need to mention someone in that Slack channel so that they can take the call. And that allows for sort of a silent workflow and in a very efficient process, instead of being interrupted and asked, with no notice, do you want to accept this call that came through? Now, obviously, if you're not available for live transfers, we would schedule a call for you on your calendar for a follow-up at a later time.
So here's one of the blogs, and I'll put it in the chat because Marta seems super excited about this, but you can receive call transfer requests a bunch of different ways. You can get them by text message, which is what I did a while ago. I get mine by Slack. I've done Google Hangouts in the past. I'm sure any sort of messenger account. All you have to do is talk to just email your account manager and say, I want to set this up, and then just give them the channel. So I just create a Smith.ai Slack channel, and that's where all my transfer requests go to. But whatever messaging system you use, you know, you can do that. And then someone asked about recording. That is something that do you have to activate that in your portal? Okay, I've found that blog, so I'll share that real quick.
Yeah, so call recording is going to, oh yes, you will access a recording of this presentation if you're talking about recording. So yes, that call recording and accessing your recorded calls. So if you have a VoIP system, you can actually have calls recorded from the very beginning. If we're hosting your number, that's something different. So what I would recommend is that if you're using something like CallRail for call tracking metrics, one of those solutions, that's already going to be recording your calls. If you use a VoIP phone solution, you might have call recording through that. There are a lot of different options. So that's something, again, talk to your account manager. Yes, so for anyone who's asking about Slack, yes, you can integrate with Slack. And great, everyone's saying we're done, we've already provided so much value. So that's great. I'm glad that everyone is happy and getting information that they're looking for. But we have so much more to share with you. So keep the questions coming. I will try and do my best to keep an eye on them. We have a couple other questions before we move on with our regularly scheduled programming. So one is, can more than one person get transfer requests? Yes, we actually, okay, I don't want the team to kill me because we don't want to say we'll take 500 of your team members, but we have pretty complex offices that we answer calls for. And we have, multiple location businesses where you can't just call the Boston office and expect to also get a transfer to the LA office to so-and-so who does intake there. We actually have very complex workflows for, are there two different numbers? One for the Boston branch, one for the LA branch. Is there even a rollover or sort of ring over if one person's not available? Let's say the paralegal isn't available in the Boston office, but the attorney is their backup. I don't want to miss that call. If my paralegal is not there, ring me. Okay, at least, she's my buffer most of the time. We can do that as well. So a sequential call flow. You could also have call blast, which is ring a couple people at once, which is typically going to be through your phone system. So there are a number of options there. Absolutely, we can transfer to multiple people. We don't just work with solo attorneys. We have much larger businesses, large nonprofits, big sales organizations that we're working with. So that's important. And one thing that I'll say there that's interesting with the can I transfer to multiple people? If you have that call transfer going into a Slack channel, you want to make sure that it's really clear who's going to answer and claim that. We also pass call summaries into Slack. So you could have your own directions with people who are monitoring a Slack channel to say, look, we have shifts almost that we monitor Slack, and between 12 and 4 every day, that's Maddy's shift. Maddy's going to monitor Slack and call back anyone who a summary comes through and it wasn't handled or scheduled, and there's still something outstanding. Maybe it's a sort of case where it needs an internal review. Great, there's a check mark on Slack. The person follows up. They leave a note on Slack for anyone who's coming back to that channel later. And that's also reflected in Clio, for example, if that's your system, or whatever solution you're using. So I did include in the chat, and I'll include later on the full list of integrations. But if you go to smith.ai/integrations, you will be able to see everything that we integrate with. Pretty much every scheduling system under the sun, Slack, Teams, Zapier, which connects us to thousands more, and directly to CRM case management systems like Clio, Lawmatics, obviously Monday, Dubsado, things like that can be connected through Zapier. and it's quite robust. So for those who are asking, is Slack part of our system? Smith.ai doesn't own Slack, but we do have direct integrations with it that the team is extremely well acquainted with. So if you don't know how this can impact your answering, your call flow, how your team can be roped in for more responsibility here and take it off your plate, we absolutely can advise you the same way that we would advise you on how to go about setting up, a chat answering playbook, because you probably don't have a ton of experience setting up a chat widget before. So lean on us and ask us how we can do this. And just so happens that we've got Regina here who's going to share with you how she does a lot of the call handling side. So what I was thinking we could do is I'm going to, share my screen with the instructions that are actually, so if you log into your dashboard, you will see instructions here. And these are all the instructions that we use to answer and handle a lot of the calls, and there are notes in here, and you can see Regina's not currently taking any Arizona cases. So a lot of the information here is sorted by tabs, so we can quickly identify who is calling. We do offer dedicated Spanish receptionists, but we have bilingual available if it's not very often. If you constantly get Spanish speaking callers, then we would probably recommend a dedicated Spanish line so that we can always transfer if the receptionist who answers is not Spanish speaking to someone who is. And then all other callers, there's a set of directions for that as well. So Regina, sort of walk us through, who are the prospective clients for your family law firm that you are interested in speaking with, and how does that inform the first step of the workflow, which is answering calls for them and taking the conversation a little bit further?
Yeah, so I get a lot of calls. Actually, it's actually a little bit overwhelming. I get at least 15 to 30 potential client calls a day. So that's not something I could handle in-house. There's no way one person can answer and talk to and screen out 10 calls a day, let alone 30. So I have to have a gatekeeper. So Smith.ai is my gatekeeper. So I get information. I think you can set up an intake form. It has about 3, 5 around that number of basic questions.
3 to 6.
3 to 6. That'll give you a enough information to know kind of where to go and where to kind of send it from that point. So obviously I get their name, I get their number, their email. I always ask for the other party's name because obviously I have to run a conflict check because this is family law. So I actually have a form that's just a link. So someone asks which CRM do they integrate with, and the answer is all of them. So it doesn't matter what you have, they can work with it. They can either log into your system or just give them a link. Mine, they don't log into my system. I just give them a web link, and they fill out the intake form as if they were the client, and it has all the information. So it just goes right into my CRM, which happens to be Dipsado. And from there, that's where all the magic on the back end happens. But so I get that information, I get the kind of a summary of what it is that they want. And a lot of times that's enough information for me to screen someone out. So if it's, hey, I have 8 DUIs and I want to get custody of my kids, yeah, I'm good. So it'll go into the Dipsado with a couple of clicks. I can just send them a canned email that says, I'm so sorry, we're not able to accept your case, and, Fio con Dios and whatever. So,
yeah. So one thing that I'll just note is that we don't actually, the only correction is we won't log into your system because it's actually no, it's fine. It may seem like we are because of the API integration, but basically through Zapier, yes, we can connect to almost any system as long as they have an open API, which means that, they allow their fields in their database to be, connected to with our system. If we enter a name, then they recognize in that system that there's a new name, and to create a record, there's an email, there's a phone number, there's a call summary, maybe your CRM calls that an activity or a conversation and such. So we know how to map those fields from the data that happens during a call with that caller into your system, and it's automatically added there. So we're not logging in because, one of the most important things is the capacity that Regina's talking about. We have over 200 receptionists and chat agents. That means that you're not missing calls, that you can have multiple calls come in at the same time, which someone in-house is not going to be able to do. And frankly, much better to use their time for the real in-depth intake and conflict check conversation. But it also prevents any, sort of private information that's being shown to a vendor receptionist service. That's something that actually would be a red flag to me. If you are working with another service, they shouldn't be logging into your systems. First of all, licenses also, cost money. Secondly, it's a, potentially a real conflict to have multiple clients that we'd be working with and logging in. It's a security risk. So we do it all via API. The receptionists never have access into any information of yours. It's only writing information in. It's not reading or exposing any information from your system. So it's the most secure way to do it.
So Vanessa asked, does this mean you don't have to add another user? So yes, that's correct. You're not adding another user. And if you don't know what API is, don't freak out about it. So if you're with a major system like Clio or Lawmatics or Practice Panther, they have open API. So that's all you really need to know. Just email your account manager and say, I'm using this CRM. How do I connect this to you? And they'll figure it out. It's super easy for them to figure it out for you. I just do it a little differently, where I just give them the link and they fill it in and it goes directly into my system that way. And then I have all the workflows, starting from there. So I do like having the gatekeeper, because I probably, out of those 30 calls, probably I would say 10 of them I just reject based on the information that Smith gives me. So that's 10 people that I'm not wasting my staff's time with calling back. I just send them the canned email and they're done. There's probably a few, I get a lot of calls for adoptions. I actually don't do adoptions. I get at least 1 to 2 calls a day about adoptions. I have no idea, because I've never done one in my life. So I have no idea why I'm getting this many calls for adoptions, but I always refer them out. And I do that for, with 1 or 2 clicks. So the rest of the calls, I'll triage to either my paralegal, to my intake coordinator. I now have a second offsite intake coordinator based on the quality of the lead, and then they do the sales and the further screening and all that from there.
So there's another question, and Regina, you can speak to this if this is something that you've utilized with Smith.ai, but basically we can also take payments for you. And there are a number of ways that this actually plays a role when, and someone had asked a question about this, can we take payments? Is it secure? Where is that information going? It goes directly into the LawPay invoice that you provide to us. You can have a blank invoice. You can actually set up LawPay invoices so they have a preset dollar amount using a UTM parameter. There's a lot of information on whatever payment system you're on to have a link to an invoice. The information is provided to the receptionists who will be, maybe capturing payment before a consultation is booked. Maybe you charge $400 for a consultation, or the first 30 minutes is free, and then you want to have a credit card on file. Talk to us about what's interesting to you, what you need to have done. There are a lot of our clients who say, look, you can screen, you can ask those 3 questions, but having someone put money down for a paid consultation. And by the way, we have a webinar just on that subject on Monday. I'll include the link to that later. If you're charging for consultations, a lot more likely that they're going to show up. So a lot of people will do that. Maybe they'll credit the consultation fee to the first invoice. When we are handling calls, we will take that credit card information, directly put it into that invoice or into that credit card form in your intake form or in the LawPay, invoice itself. It's just a link. We don't log into your system. We don't put that credit card information in ours. And even for chat, we have that link in chat, and we will instruct the person who's chatting in, who's scheduling a consultation, to go ahead and fill that form and send back the payment confirmation number. And what that does is gives us the ability to proceed without having any credit card details put into the chat widget itself. because obviously that information is then getting emailed to you. You see transcripts in various places. So very secure. The other thing that I'll share is that we can also follow up on late payments or unpaid invoices. Here's Regina's invoice form. You can have us call as a neutral third party the people who owe you money. We know from the Clio Legal Trends reports, there's like an 85% realization rate of the billed amount to actually what is taken into your bank account. So it's important that you get paid for the time that you spent with those clients, and we can help you achieve. I think John Bradshaw said 99%. You know, he used to capture 70%. This is another old client. 70% went to 97% when he added LawPay and Smith.ai. So if you're currently taking and chasing down checks, if you don't have us doing that for you, hand off those awkward conversations to us, because we're happy to handle that. So
there's a ton of questions.
there are a lot of questions, which is great. That's totally fine. Yeah. Okay.
So with LawPay, yeah, I just give them the link, and so they can take payments over the phone. Honestly, I think a lot of people, my law partner didn't even realize she could do this and that there was a payment link. They were just sending client invoices. There's just a static link that I actually put in my emails. It's in my email signature. It's in any canned email that comes out from Dosado. The clients can just link and pay themselves. So yeah, you can have Smith do the payment, or you can put in all of your communications and slap it on your website too, the payment link, because quite frankly, it'll save you some calls. But yeah, that's what they're doing. They're just filling out a link as if they were the client, and the information goes directly into LawPay.
Right. So I want to address a couple other, and by the way, LawPay or whatever you're using, most of the payment solutions have a link that you can use. So there are a couple other questions that have come through. One is, are there a certain number of receptionists that are assigned to each client? The answer is no. We actually have everyone who is available to you. We find that that allows us the greatest ability to not miss any calls. If we have a little cluster of 5, and maybe they're extremely familiar with you and a few other clients, you know, but someone's out, then we run the risk of not doing our job for you. So we have a system that allows the presentation of information, which is actually much more complex than what we present as the text sort of instructions that I was showing you before, as a real workflow for the receptionist. And they have the information they need at their fingertips to answer the call based on the type of caller and follow that workflow that can be repeated no matter whose caller for whatever business is coming through. So we don't do that sort of pod model, because you might spin up a new marketing campaign also. And, you know, if you call us that day that you just launched a big new campaign and you say, oh, by the way, I'm going to have a 100% increase in my calls, that doesn't set either of us up for success. So we want to be able to handle any call flow that's coming in for you. And you can go ahead and run your business, spin up the marketing campaigns, and have the peace of mind that Smith.ai can handle what you throw at us, no matter how much is coming through. And no matter what other clients come through. You're not competing with anyone, right? You're never getting someone pulled off because they're more senior and so on.
So Nicole asks a good question. I think she's asking me, Smith screens for you, but they don't schedule. The answer for me is no, but yes, they can. Because I get 30 calls a day, I can't tell Smith schedule everybody for a consultation. There's not enough hours in the day. And honestly, I don't want to meet with everybody. So I use them as an initial screening. I have an intake coordinator, and do I immediately forward the call? No, honestly, I don't want to. So my whole system is set up to where my clients need to be patient. So I kind of treat it, sort of like a first date. Like, you need to act the way on the first date that you're going to act the way the rest of the case. And I can't call somebody back within 30 seconds. I'm busy, I'm in court. So there is going to be some patience that's involved, and the client can't wait half an hour for a call back. They're not my ideal client. So you have to figure out what works for you so they can schedule. You can just give them explicit instructions. Every single person that's been in a car accident, schedule them a 10-minute meeting with me. They absolutely will do it. Or just whatever you want to get on your calendar, they will put on your calendar. Or you can say, if it's this kind of case, I want you to forward it to this person. So it's completely specific to your firm. Obviously, everyone knows PI leads, you have to get on them right away. So you need to either get them scheduled or they need to be immediately forwarded to someone who can call back right away. If you're like me in family law and you've got your 40 cases that you want to handle and you're turning away more cases than you're accepting, then it's sort of a different workflow where everybody has to go through this really slow intake process. So you can make it's 100% customizable for you.
Yeah.
Someone said, I was told they couldn't use LawPay. That's definitely not correct. They've always used LawPay. They've always been able to take payments. I would not use PayPal. You're actually not supposed to use PayPal. So don't. I would use LawPay. If you're a lawyer, you need to use LawPay because it can protect you in the event of a chargeback. So yeah, they absolutely can take your payments. If you're doing scheduling through someone else, whatever you're using, Calendly, Acuity, obviously you can set up your payment through them. So there's a bunch of different ways. There's no one way to do it.
If you're already using LawPay, Calendly is going to ask you to sign up for their pro account, which you might do. It's not expensive in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, definitely we would have never said we can't use LawPay. LawPay links are really handy because you don't have to log in to get access to them, and for us to capture that payment directly from the phone call into that form and nowhere else. So we don't take the payment. We literally don't have any place for the receptionist to put that information. They know it has to go into a payment form. So the cost per call for placing like those accounts receivable calls is identical to your cost per call that you see on our pricing page. So let me go through this just for a minute. The cost per call is the cost per call. If you have add-ons, then there are some fees that go across your account for that month. So importantly, if you have one of the add-ons for accepting payments, it's an extra $1 per call. And that's because we have, that ability on any call. It could be a call that we are going to accept payments. Now, we also can accept collect calls. Speaking of calls that are urgent, that can't wait. If you have people who are calling, who are an inmate, calling from jail, et cetera, we can accept those. And we can also, if we weren't successful in scheduling an appointment, the person was resistant, they didn't want to move forward, they need to talk to their partner before discussing an estate plan, meeting, whatever, we can actually have a text and or email for the price of 50 cents, if you choose one or both, actually go to that caller, because we're capturing name, email, and phone number, after the call is completed. So you can imagine if it was a successful scheduled appointment, then maybe we're sending them a YouTube video that you've recorded, how to have a successful consultation. If it wasn't successful, it could be, here's the link to schedule an appointment if you choose to do so later. And you might have us even follow up with an outbound call to see, are they ready the next day or the next week, depending on what is that buyer's life cycle, right? Like if you have a PI case and they're not ready, you might, call them back in just a few hours. If you have someone who is doing estate wills or trusts, then you might give them a little bit more breathing room. You really need to, as Regina has said, customize it based on what you know about your client base, same as you would add a dedicated Spanish line, right? Same as you would, do extended intake. How much information do you need to collect? It's going to determine, what add-ons you pick from this menu. And the reason that we break it out this way is because if you don't want any of these things, and you just want the calls, and you just want that one transfer destination, you want that free CRM integration, you want our free AI chatbot, and you just need 30 calls a month, and you're like, look, just take a message. You can transfer to me if it's a qualified lead, and that is of immense value. I don't need any of these other things. Fine, you won't pay for them. But what we find is that we're especially valuable to those attorneys and to those business owners who do put a little bit more on our plate, because if you schedule that appointment, if that's, making sense for your practice, you don't have to try and call back that lead who has, according to all the data that I've seen, less than a 50% chance of picking up your call because you look like a stranger. Now, Regina has demand coming out of her ears and she's not intimidated by that. But, until you get to that level where your firm is so mature and so well known and well recognized, or just the nature of your business is higher volume, then you can change your sort of operational workflow. But for many people, they don't want to risk not getting that lead right then and there when striking when the iron is hot. So don't risk necessarily that you're going to get back in touch with that lead if you can schedule them right there. Is that worth, $1 per call to have that appointment? How much did it cost you to actually generate that call? Are you paying, $50 per lead on Google? Are you paying $200 per lead on Google? It's extremely expensive to generate enough calls to get people to call you, to get people to visit your website, and to get that lead in the first place. My argument.
Yeah, if you're PI or criminal, if you're PI and criminal and spending money on advertising, you're flushing it down the toilet if you're not empowering the first person that answers the phone to schedule them for a consult, because those people do not wait, not 10 seconds. That's just the nature of it, which is one reason why I couldn't do it. So that's definitely going to be worth it. Somebody asked, where to go? Charge per call. Yes, it's per call, which is, like I said, a lot better than charging per minutes, because there's no incentive to kind of milk it like I thought some of the other answering services were doing. They also, another thing that we have mentioned, it's really great, is once you get the call summary, first of all, they automatically just block sales calls, so you don't get charged for sales calls. But if someone's calling you and they don't know it's a sales call, you can block it and you're not going to get charged for that as well. So there's a ton, and they send me a summary. And it's usually something like you got 400, real calls, and you got 150, spam or sales call that do not count against my quota, because either they blocked them or I've blocked them.
And it's not just the cost, right? It's also like not attempting a transfer or not having that interruption for you to determine, is that a sales call? Well, you don't want that interruption. You don't want that cost. You don't want that cost of your time. So one person asked, what if Smith.ai doesn't integrate with your CRM? So we do have a Zapier Zap for both calls and chats. So the vast majority of CRM should be able to integrate that way. If they don't, there is the potential to have it integrate with Google Sheets through Zapier and things like that. So don't worry about that so much. Just email us, support@smith.ai, and tell us, what system you're using, and we will guide you in that. Now, importantly, if you don't have IT support, because we know we work with a lot of solo and small businesses, law firms, we can log into, for example, your phone system and help you forward your calls. We'll tell you, okay, now go and change your password, because we just were your tech support and you shouldn't have us have your password, but we can go in and set that up for you. If you need someone to set up a whole Zapier workflow, that's probably beyond the scope of what we're going to do, but we can recommend professionals who will help you with that. So one way or another, we will put you in touch with people, or we can work with the people who you're already in touch with. If you have managed services provider, someone who helps you with Zapier or practice management setup, you can put them on that email thread or in a conference call, and we will totally take care of that alongside that person with your permission, of course. There's another question here. So Sean is asking, what do the people who answer the calls for Smith.ai say if the call, oh, hold on, I need to.
Oh, I'm sorry, I closed it out. What he said was, what do they say if the person is like, are you actually in the office? Are you physically in the office?
We will say what you want us to say here, right? So typically, we would say we are a receptionist service, working closely with this business. If you want us to say that we are in your office, then we will do so. Might get us into a little bit of a sticky situation if they ask us local trivia. If you ask us to do that, provide us with the local trivia. So, just be prepared for that. It's very rare that we get asked, because if you look at the Clutch reviews, at the Trustpilot reviews, most people are saying to us every day, there's a comment that comes through that's, my client told me, the law firm owner, that like, I have such a great team. When do you hire your receptionist? Like, I'm so proud of you for growing. And, they're sort of chuckling that they don't have anyone in-house.
Yeah, my experience is most people don't ask. And especially now in the age of COVID, I think people aren't expecting people to be in the office. I actually got lost going to the office the other day. I literally spaced out and was like, I haven't been here in 6 months. I don't know where it is. So they're not really expecting you to be in the office. So I don't find that to be an issue where people are even asking. They just assume that, they're in the office, and
it's very rare.
Matters.
Yeah, totally. There was a question about the outbound lead engagement service. So similarly, like per call, we can make outbound calls to the most common sort of use case is people who fill out your web form online, your contact form. Those are probably going into your email, who's calling them back. Maybe you have it set up to ping you on Slack, or it's going into your CRM. You can take that information and you can send it to Smith.ai, and we will make outbound calls. Now, maybe you're doing something sophisticated like hosting webinars. You have lists of people who you're looking to reach out to. They express interest in your firm, their prospects or leads. We can make those outbound calls as batches as well. Now, we do that for, a sort of payment collection if you would like us to, but we can also invite them to your next webinar or to schedule an appointment with you. Are they still interested in your services? Maybe you've sent them 10 emails since they first got in touch with you, and you just want to determine, is this person at all interested in hiring me, or have they found an attorney? Because you paid, $300 to get them to call your firm in the first place. You've been dripping emails to them, and you want to know one way or another, are they still a viable lead? We can make those outbound calls. And then when we get them on the phone and they express interest or not, we can take the next step and make sure that they are handled appropriately. I'll also say this, inbound and outbound, we can, if they're not a good fit, not just turn them down. What we often find is that if you have a list of referral partners, referral firms outside of the practice area, or if you just can't accept that case and you have others who you flow over to, then we can take that list and we can, make that referral for you if you're comfortable with us doing that, so that caller gets a really great experience. We've seen people get 5-star reviews on Google just because they felt taken care of, even though they weren't a client. So think about that experience from the caller's perspective that you want to deliver through Smith.ai.
Hold on, my computer isn't plugged in, so.
We don't want to lose you, Regina. Okay, so I'm just going through a couple of.
Stephen, yes, there's 2 questions we can answer together because they're, okay.
All right, go ahead, Regina.
So Stephen and somebody else, Ashley asked similar questions. So Stephen wanted to know how you move it through where you can sort of route calls. And then Ashley asked if there's an app. There's not an app. There's the dashboard, which is pretty mobile friendly. And then you can actually text your instructions directly to Smith. So you can say away and they're never going to contact you, or you can say normal and then you're back to normal. So I can't remember what all the instructions are, but those are the ones that I use the most are normal and away. And you just send that 1-word text and they automatically change your instructions based on that. So I think Stephen asked about, how do you move certain numbers through? So every time someone calls, I get an email, and then the email at the bottom says, always block this caller, or always route this caller directly to me, or request a call back to this caller. So with 1 click, I could have Smith call the person back, or I can have it whitelisted where it goes directly to me. Now, if you're using a cell phone, then it obviously would go directly to your cell. If you're using a voice over IP system, I'm using dial pad. So if I'm routing a caller directly to me, then I can actually put other things on the back end with my voice over IP system where that person would always go directly to my voicemail, or maybe they would go directly to my paralegal. So there's things that you can initiate with Smith and then sort of tweak on your back end to kind of,
Yeah,
customize
yeah.
it.
So let me speak to that a little bit more. If you have a VoIP, any phone system, you're already forwarding the calls to Smith AI. You can conditionally forward the calls to Smith AI. You could say, I have an IVR, a menu that's set up, and if you press 1 for new clients, you go to Smith AI. If you press 2 for existing clients, then you go to the office, and there's a whole call flow that is handled that way. You might have press 3 if you're court staff. You might have press 4 for accounts receivable, billing, whatever. You could have press 4 go to Smith AI. You don't have to just choose one. But what Regina is also saying is that there may be specific numbers. You don't have all that set up. You just want to forward your calls to Smith AI. There might be friends, family, very common referral partners who know if they miss you, you're going to call them back. They can be added to a list that skips over that forwarding of Smith AI and does go directly to ring to you. Now, if you don't answer, it would go to your voicemail, or you can have it, set up to go somewhere else if you have another transfer destination. But typically people who whitelist have it just ring to them, and either you pick up or you don't. It wouldn't automatically drop into a voicemail. People's mothers get mad at things like that. So, whatever works for you, we can typically come up with the right solution, and we'll guide you through that. So there was a question about custom plans. Now, Regina's call volume is substantial, and we have clients with a whole range of budgets and needs and growth stages. So yes, I was showing, and I will share again, just so that it's visually sort of displayed here. The plans here showing that they start at 30 calls a month. We can do as low as 10 calls a month. We can also do on the chat side as low as 5 chats a month. So for, there is a charge of $8 for chat for the 5 chats a month, because there's still the same amount of account maintenance that we offer you. But for $40 a month for live chat, or for $80 a month for $8 per call times 10 calls, that's just peace of mind, right? If you're just starting out, if you have lower volume, but very highly valuable cases, maybe workers' comp, that's something that we can set up for you. Just contact us. During the 14-day money back guarantee period, you can have up to $1,000 refunded if you ever decide to not move forward. So there's a lot of call activity that can happen then, but you won't, if you're in that lower, bracket, come close to that. So you have the opportunity to have a full refund if you don't want to move forward. But yes, 10 calls we can handle. We can handle as low as 5 chats. If you're not sure, just go through that 14-day money back period, and you may find, look, I just want the unlimited AI chatbot. It's free. Once in a blue moon, someone's, going to visit the site. Most of your activity is, phone and word of mouth. Fine. Now on the high side, we actually have clients, as I think Regina already has indicated, who have many more than 150 calls a month. So this is sort of what's the most popular display. It is not the be all and end all of our plans. And I will say that if you have substantially more than 150 calls a month, there may be price discounts that we can offer to you. So be sure and ask about that. And during that 14-day period, we'll get a good sense for what a monthly plan would look like and cost you, especially with, the different add-ons that are available. So let's,
someone asked about My Case, and they said they have a closed API, and I hate My Case for a bunch of reasons, but I know they have an intake form, but do they have a link? Someone has to answer this in the chat. For people that use My Case, do they have a link where you can send that link to basically anyone, and any potential client can fill out your intake form and it'll end up in my case. So I don't know the answer to that. So if the answer is no, then stop using my case. Honestly, I can't stand my case. Because honestly, that's a feature that's been around for like 7 years at least.
I just linked to, if you're looking for, we need to get to just a couple other things I want to show you, at least with Regina's account, to fulfill the basics that we promised today. But the docs.smith.ai that I just shared in the chat is your resource for all things: which CRM, how do I integrate, can I use the intake forms? I do believe that My Case Now does allow for intake forms, public links, and we, there may be, other updates that come forward from that, but look at, what systems are there. And the other thing I would say is that if you can't find it there, email us at support@smith.ai and we will uncover that for you. Now, when it comes to the setup, I think it's been, made very clear today that there are a number of different options, and it's really about aligning our services to your budget, to your goals, to your work-life balance, that you want to achieve. And what are the types of clients, who are the types of clients you're looking to work with, and what other factors are at play? Do you get a ton of spam calls because you have a brand new phone number and everyone's discovered that you're now in business and they're not blocked for you after years of getting your phone number taken off of lists? That's going to be super valuable to you. Do you have a lot of court staff who are calling in? Criminal defense attorneys may find that, court staff is constantly calling, like your court date was moved, or so-and-so's not at the court yet, or, are we telling people where to park when you arrive at court because an existing client is calling in? And that's a common question. Now, these are things, and this is very important. If you are looking to use Smith AI for both calls and chats, which is what I recommend, then we take a lot of this information and we build it into responses in chat so that we can answer all the basic FAQ for your law firm, for your business. Where does Regina work? What are her fees? Does she do consultations, and when? What languages are covered under her firm? Who are her employees? What are the practice areas, right? So these are all the details around family law, down to the nitty-gritty details, right? And this is what we like to see so that we can be most accurate and pick up on those keywords during a conversation, because I think the most important thing is that we are not going to be robots following a script unless you have our AI chatbot. But the live staff, the people who are really on the front lines, need to have the information so that they can process and put it forward in that conversation effectively. So share with us. I will also say Regina has seen that it takes iterations over time. So, a little bit of patience and a little bit of time investment, working back and forth, allowing us to make changes and get to know your firm or your business. It really has a long-term payoff, just as you would do with an in-house employee.
Yeah, so, and people are kind of asking more about exactly how I use it, and I'll say that I probably use it in a way that is different than most of you would want to use it. I flat out do not answer my phone. I do not have a phone in my office. I don't answer any calls live. I don't care if Oprah Winfrey's calling and she wants a prenup. I do not answer the phone. So I just don't. So I definitely use it in a different way than other people do. I want all messages, and then I go and go in and kind of get rid of all the potential, because most of my calls are potential client calls, because I actually tell my clients not to call me. So probably 95% of the calls coming into Smith AI are potential client calls. And again, that's like 15 to 30 a day. So it's not my clients calling me, it's just potential clients. So even if judges, et cetera, are calling me, I don't want to answer the phone. And I know people find that unusual, but it's not if you think about it. First of all, what judge is actually expecting me to sit by the phone and answer the call anyway? Second of all, if they're calling to say, hey, are you available for a hearing, next week? I don't know if my client is available. But if they call Smith, I'm going to get an email that says, hey, Judge Smith is calling and wants to know if you're available for a hearing on March 15th. Well, that gives me a chance to contact my client, find out they're available, and I can give them a call back or email back and say, yes, we're available. So I personally don't take any calls live because I just don't. I like to have space to actually work, and it makes more sense for me to have an informed conversation, before, having a call back. And I do all scheduled calls. The other thing that you all need to think about is designing a system where, Smith is doing the front end, but you're going to have something on the back end as well. So my CRM does a lot of the legwork for me. So yeah, you definitely can have Smith text and email your clients. I have Dubsado do it for free because I'm already paying for it. So once Smith fills out the form and they hit send, it goes into Dubsado, and I have a full-on workflow, and that's discussed in detail in my other YouTube video if you want to watch it. But I call it the magic button, because from there it could set off literally unlimited actions. Now, I'm family law, so I honestly do not believe in chasing money. I'm not going to send you more than probably 2 or 3 emails. I think it's a little weird saying, hey, do you still want that divorce from that MFR? But personal injury, criminal, that kind of thing, you really kind of have to have nurture campaigns. Trusts and estates is also an area of law where you really can kick off a nurture campaign just from one call into Smith. So a call comes into Smith, you put them in your CRM, and that can immediately start a nurture campaign that you have set up on the back end. So for me personally, I have one email that goes out within 15 minutes, unless I go in and manually stop it because I've screened them out, saying, hey, thanks for calling. It's got a YouTube video, it's got a link to pay. It probably has like 7 or 8 different links for things that they need to know about. If you want to upload documents, here's a link to upload documents. I tell them if there's a case in progress, or if you want a modification of a prior order, you need to use this link to upload documents. So there's a ton of information packed into that automatic email, which is all triggered by the first call into Smith. And then after that, I think maybe a couple days later, there's a second email that goes out with all of my YouTube videos that are relevant to the topic they're calling about. And I've got one about client recommendations, like Google reviews, all of that. That goes out as well. So your CRM can handle all of that back end, nurturing. So something is going on if you're busy and your intake person can't get to them right away. So that's in conjunction with my intake person calling them back and getting more information and screening and seeing if they want to come into a meeting. So even if someone calls on the weekend, or they just call during a busy period and we can't get them back to them right away, they're still getting some touch point from my office that's all kicked off by the initial call, where I'm, not personally having hands on it.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on for another hour, but I will respect your time. And I will just say this. So we will have this recording as, crazy as it's been, not exactly a script, but I hope you learned a lot. We will have this recording to you later tonight, and then we'll put the, nice, more polished video on YouTube, whatever polished version of this means. And I encourage you to visit Smith.ai, get the consultation, sign up, see our intake form. What do we ask of you to be a client of ours? Because we take it really seriously, and we know the questions that we need to have answered before we can work successfully with you. Have that consultation first if you're not sure, if you see that form and it's intimidating. And Regina has a list of resources that I will also send out when I send the email, that you should review, watch the other sessions that we talked about, the 2 of us perfecting your law firm intake, and also use the code BeachLawyer100 if you would like $100 off your first month of service. I
think some people may not have come here from my other group, so people don't know what you're talking. I'm an administrator of a group called Lawyer on the Beach, which I started.
Right. Why Beach Lawyer? Beach Lawyer because of the Lawyer on the Beach group. Thanks. That's right.
Right. So I started in 2019 because I've been virtual for a while, and I've used tools to do that. And it got really popular after COVID when people realized they had to be virtual. So I put all of my stuff on there. I don't hide anything. All of my scripts, all of my webinars for this are on that page also. So you just have to join, answer all the questions, because if you don't, you're going to sit there in purgatory forever. And the questions aren't hard. It's like, are you a lawyer, and are you going to span my group? So That's it. So I've got all the stuff there. We kind of collaborate and share different ideas about everything. And we talk a lot about intake multiple times. If you search the group about intake, we discuss it ad nauseum. People share ideas. I'm constantly tweaking. You should be constantly tweaking. Don't just, pick one method and stick to it. I constantly change my methods, and eventually you'll find something that definitely works for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I encourage everyone to join that group. Go on Facebook, go on the website, www.lawyeronthebeach.com. You can also find her on Facebook. The Facebook group is incredible. And I also just linked for everyone to the paid consultations webinar on Monday. That's with Allison Williams and Dan Lear, Dan of Gravity Legal, Allison of Law Firm Mentor Movement. So that'll be an interesting
Awesome. I love awesome.
if you want to talk about paid consultations and why and how to use them. So everyone, we're over time. We did start a couple minutes late, so I gave you an hour, and I hope you enjoyed the session today. I certainly did. I can't believe it's been an hour. It flew by. Regina, as always, thank you a ton.
Sure.
You're amazing. Appreciate you coming on here and answering the onslaught of questions.
No problem.
All right, take care, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.